And we are live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another podcast. Welcome back to Treasury Edge. I'm very excited to be chatting with Hyunsu and Dave from Hyperion DeFi, talking about the Hype ecosystem. A ton of stuff going on, especially if you've been in the wolf spaces. It's an ecosystem that a lot of people are excited about. It's growing literally every single day. They are going to be stacking. They love the Hype ecosystem, and they've put a lot of their efforts into investing in this area in the crypto markets. And so very excited to be joined by these two gentlemen here to talk about why, talk about what they're building, where they see the future of this industry going as well. We've had them on a couple of spaces and streams already, so we've already gotten familiar. So it's great to have both of you. How are you guys?
Doing great. Good to see you again, Cade.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks so much for having us.
100%. So real quick, let's start maybe with the thesis around Hyperion. So you guys started as a different company before you transitioned and moved into crypto treasury industry. What was it about the specifically? Maybe we can dive specifically into Hype first, and we'll go from there. What was it about Hype that got you guys so excited? Because there are other ecosystems in the crypto world that do focus in similar areas as Hype, but Hype definitely did. It definitely crowned its way through there a little bit, and so I'm sure you guys are pretty happy with it. But I'd love to know sort of your thesis there.
Yeah, there's several components to it. I mean, to why we find Hype or the Hyperliquid ecosystem so compelling. Really, it starts with the fundamentals. Hyperliquid in 2025 generated around $850 million of revenue, which 97% of that went back to buying and effectively burning the token. So it removed around 4% of the total circulating supply in its first year of really operating in the ecosystem. And it generated over 30% of all blockchain-based revenues, right? So it is coming in as a newer protocol that launched officially around 2023 and dominating the earnings compared to ecosystems that have been around for much longer, like Ethereum and Solana. And more importantly, as a business that is operating in the DeFi space, we found that there's a lot of utility around the Hype token. So you can stake it for various different initiatives or primitives that are built on Hyperliquid. For example, 500,000 Hype can be staked to launch what is called the HIP3 market, or effectively a perpetuals exchange for non-crypto assets. So we're trading equities, commodities, gold, silver, oil, and so forth. And Hyperion has built those primitives on Hyperliquid. And so we have built revenue streams that are agnostic to the performance of the underlying asset, and also established almost infinitely scalable revenue streams that are tied to proper strategic deployment of the Hype token.
Very nice. Dave, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would. So I come from a more traditional financial services background. I was at SoFi, I was at PayPal, I was at Cantor Fitzgerald. It's easy for people to lose, kind of like the so what in the big picture when people are talking about blockchain and DeFi and everything else. What's important for people to realize, and this is why I've made the move here, Hyperliquid is absolutely dominating, and it's new, right? The token launched in the end of 2024, less than a year and a half old. It generates more fees in its ecosystem than Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum combined. And the magnitude of what is being built for how it's expanding access to financial services, new kinds of tradability and saving fees for its users, in our perspective, makes it the winner in the future outcomes of financial services moving onto the blockchain. We've established our business lines not just by buying and owning Hype, but adding to the utility of this ecosystem, building ways for people to access these markets, monetizing when people are trading on these markets. So it creates a very interesting access point into this growing DeFi ecosystem that I don't think you can find anywhere else. So it's very, very exciting for us.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, in terms of our trading spaces, as well as people just who are involved in the crypto ecosystem, Hype has been one of those top ones. There's been a bunch of Dino tokens that didn't exactly fulfill the promises maybe that they had put out a few years ago, and people were looking for that. Solana was the one that a lot of people were hoping might be that one. Started to slow down. The meme coins came out. Then Hype comes in with a very different attack that actually, like you mentioned, you're in the traditional finance world. You came from the traditional finance world. They've got an angle that really appeals to that crowd as well. Have you guys found that you have to adjust the pitch or adjust the explanation when you're talking to a crypto crowd? What have you found has been the most what has moved the needle the most for the traditional investing side when you're trying to explain the Hype ecosystem, what you guys are doing?
It's a good question. I'd say the spectrum of interest is very, very broad in terms of who is interested in our company and interested in Hyperliquid and the ecosystem. And on the traditional financial point of view, it's similar to what I mentioned, where you begin with, notwithstanding the fact that this is new, it's a top 10 crypto and it makes the most fees by far. And among the traditional financial services crowd, that gathers their interest immediately. The people who won't be well versed in meme coins, who won't necessarily understand, some of the basic trends, that's a good starting point in terms of grounding into the fundamentals of the blockchain. And then for those who are, more into the crypto space, we talk about how new markets are being launched onto Hyperliquid. And every day more and more markets are there to give people better access to these sort of trading pairs and capabilities. And then further along, there was an announcement, that Fidelity is hiring people to work on DeFi vaults, to hiring someone to manage how they're going to manage and custody assets deployed into the blockchain ecosystem. And for people that are there who understand what all of that means, we've announced that we're launching a vault. We're launching it with risk. We're going to access it first ourselves, then open it up to third parties, basically meaning we are establishing a way to enhance the yield on people's Hype tokens and Hype liquid staking tokens, monetizing option strategies, and making it more efficient and transparent for ourselves while opening up to third-party fees as well. So the sort of the navigating of the message is a interesting, thoughtful, challenging thing for us to do, where it's like big picture fundamentals, a boatload of fees on this blockchains, loads of entry points to generate recurring revenues, and we're engaged in all of them, as many as we can. And then for people more into it, it's very, very topical. It's very live to say, oh, you heard about this? Yes, we're doing that. And there's a lot of those, and Hyunsu can speak to those way better than me in terms of like these super new, cutting edge, interesting things that we aim to move the speed of light to monetize on.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dave covered it really well, but just a few things to add, right? Is, when you look at Hyperion DeFi's track record, we launched our own validator for the ecosystem 8 days into announcing, the $50 million pipe. We were the first institution to use, create and use our own liquid staking token called Hype, or Hyperion Institutional Hype, which we've used for both on and off-chain strategies. We were able to, again, as David mentioned, we've announced the launch of volatility vaults on Hyper EVM, which effectively allows users to deploy cash or specific Hyperliquid LSTs to generate significantly higher yields than what's available on many other ecosystems. And then we are constantly looking for ways to develop new primitives, both on Hyper EVM and Hypercore. And so we are functionally the only company that exists in the public equity sphere that is working so diligently to support the growth of the ecosystem and positioning very early. And one thing that I've seen, I'd say I'm the DeFi native person to the team. I've been in the space for about 10 years, have been involved really in DeFi with Ethereum DeFi Summer in 2021, seeing the rise of Solana ecosystem, 2022, 2023, and many others of the same kind of attention and kind of attempted adoption cycles, except Hyperliquid does seem to have the stickiness because it has major product market fit with its Hypercore product. And then you've seen with the volumes on HIP3 with gold and silver capturing almost 2% of global trading volumes, right? This thing is only 4 months old in terms of that primitive, but it's breaking into the mainstream mindshare, and users globally are able to access these products. So as they become more used to accessing Hyperliquid, they will inevitably find themselves using Hyper EVM, and then these kind of products will grow and accelerate because of not only the value of the assets locked, but the increasing distribution of Hyperliquid and potential price appreciation there as well.
Very nice. For people, like we have from every level of person from crypto. I'm sure there are people who have been as deep as you 10 years in the industry, some people who are just getting in, and people who focus on different areas. DeFi is one that a lot of people have experience in, but I've been an equal amount who've literally never touched DeFi. They're a little bit too nervous. They're comfortable on Coinbase. They're comfortable on Robinhood and some of the main exchanges. Talk to me a little bit about the on-chain assets that are coming on-chain. Some of them native, and then some that are being brought onto on-chain. Tell me about like Tom Lee has this thesis as well that everything's coming on-chain. A lot of people in the traditional markets have come on and been like, you know what, like maybe there is something here for crypto. Talk to me a little bit about that development over the last few years, what you've seen, and maybe what you hope to see going into the future.
Yeah, we're at such an interesting point in time because we're finally, I mean, people that have been crypto for years now, like, been waiting for institutions to come buy our bags, right? And that's been like the dream for so long, and now it's happening, right? JP Morgan, I think it was Fidelity or Franklin Templeton doing the money market funds on Ethereum, right? Like Western Union doing stable coins, right? There are so many primitives that have been built on chain that are now finally start to see this level of adoption. And we have to see kind of position where a lot of the value will be attributed to. From our perspective as Hyperion DeFi, we think with the growth of tokenization and the adoption of more stable coins, a lot of value will actually be attributed to Hyperliquid. And we found that functionally it's actually been represented in the positioning of users in various kind of assets, not just crypto, equities, commodities, FX. But one of the things that we found really compelling was over the past week, Trade XYZ, which is one of the first HIP3 markets on Hyperliquid, has listed SK Hynix, Samsung, Hyundai, right? Wow. Like they're now able to provide the users globally to trade Korean equities, which is hard to access for example, for users like in the US. And I think like that is another primitive that brings sticky users to Hyperliquid. And then on the other side, like what Hyperion DeFi is providing is expertise on the DeFi function primarily. So users that have invested in crypto over the past few years, right? It's usually been like, do I buy one of the majors like BTC, Ether, Solana, or do I buy some of the underlying protocols? Hyperion DeFi solves for that. Not only do you get the base asset or the leading asset in Hyperliquid, you also get HIP3 markets. You get Hype Asset Use Service products, which bring institutional volume to Hyperliquid. We get a share of that savings revenue. We are moving very, very actively in the Hyper EVM. We're the only public company that has exposure to KNTQ and the future growth of Kinetic. And I think those things at the very early stages are usually hard for people to understand, but as that adoption, the acceleration of Hyperliquid's global adoption grows, Hyperion DeFi expects to be one of the best positioned companies because we have been so early and positioned ourselves very optimally in the ecosystem.
Definitely, most definitely. I'm also curious, like we're in a pretty volatile market. Like you wake up one day, Bitcoin's up, everyone's happy. You wake up another day, and they're at each other's throats on crypto Twitter here. How do you guys think about when you're like timing purchases in volatile markets? How do you guys think about stacking? Like how should shareholders look? How should the shareholders, I guess, what's the right way to put this? We have shareholders, right? And they're interested in Hyperion DeFi as a stock and as the company you guys are building. There's also the Hype token that kind of moves along with Bitcoin. And those markets are kind of, at the mercy of sometimes the traditional markets as well. So I'm curious on how you guys think about timing these purchases, how the risk looks for you guys, and how you guys do that.
Yeah, I can speak to the first part. I mean, we aim to be as strategic as possible, right? And so I think functionally, it's aware that digital asset treasuries, when they are trading at a premium or have a chance to accretively, use the ATM to raise capital, they are turning around and buying the underlying asset. So when you have continued accretive growth of the balance sheet, like Hyperion does, but more importantly, the way that we were able to always have, our goal is to always have 100% utilization of our Hype, which means not just staking, but how do we effectively restake it to initiatives like HIP3, to Hype Asset Use, to deployments in the Hyper EVM. And so we are always looking to out-earn that base 2.2% yield by at least a multiple of 2 or 3. And that's kind of how we plan to compound our balance sheet more rapidly than any other digital asset treasury. And then again, kind of earn those additional ecosystem rewards, position for additional DeFi monetization. And so a large part of that does come with navigating the volatility. And, as we've seen over the past few weeks, crypto, despite significantly larger institutional adoption, still faces a lot of challenges of being volatile and at the mercy of however the rest of the macro environment is moving. And we think right now a lot of it is driven by, all eyes are on Bitcoin, the liquidity, and does a risk on environment eventually return to crypto? But we actually think that the positioning of the ecosystem is a lot different now. Crypto industry is a lot different now, where value will only return to those tokens that represent some kind of effective equity or revenue share of the future growth of the protocol. And so there's a few that have moved to this buyback system, Jupiter, Pump, Hyperliquid being the leader, and many more that are trying to move towards that. But no one generates as much revenue. And I don't think we've seen as much alignment as with Hyperliquid. And so our function is to continue to kind of have that as our North Stars, like how do we position Hyperliquid to grow, and then be as strategic and intentional with our treasury as possible to continue to strategically accumulate hype and redeploy it for optimal amounts of yield. Got it.
And I was curious, if you were surprised at the interest or the lack of interest from institutional investors, investors overall, in terms of like joining you guys in this journey to accumulate hype, invest in the ecosystem at all. What has your experience been like with other investors? And that can go to either of you as well.
Sure. I mean, what interesting, just to comment on your point before, hype is actually not moving the same as the rest of the cryptocurrencies right now. I think of the top 20 crypto, hype is actually up 9% year to date. Bitcoin was pulling up, Bitcoin down 27%, down 28%, Solana down 38%, sorry. So, and the reason for that divergence is because of all the stuff that Hyunsu was saying. The alignment mechanism of all of the fees to buy back the token, the multiple points of utility, makes it a very interesting investment, and it's not just a static sort of store of wealth like Bitcoin, and the tokenomics and underlying protocol economics are just so much more lucrative than the rest of what's out there. In terms of institutional investors, I'd say we have had a lot of interest. We've had a lot of people join us on this journey. The markets are always going to be volatile, but people are very interested in what we are building. To your point before on, DeFi, what is DeFi? Why is it interesting? It's from my perspective, from our perspective, it isn't just a trend. It's not just like a cool thing for people in crypto to build in their spare time and prove what it can do. It fundamentally improves finance, right? So, but before this call, Cade, when you and I were chatting, I mentioned that I'm at this big asset-backed finance, mortgage-backed finance conference in Vegas right now. The number of steps involved to simply hold and purchase assets and then move them back and forth, it's simply staggering, right? You have wires, you have trustees, you have custodial agents, you have all these sorts of confirmations and parties and step-by-step things. And that's on the institutional side. So it's expensive, it's costly, and it's very, very slow for institutions. And the kinds of things that institutions can do in the financial services space, retail simply cannot access it. And so that's the broader mission of DeFi, is better access to financial services. It'll benefit both institutions and retail investors. And where I'm going with this is, we have institutional investors that are interested in our company and in Hyperliquid, but they're also interested in what we can help them do. They're like, hey, you're building on the blockchain. Can you give us additional utility to access this market or that market? Or, hey, we're trying to do this other thing. Nobody's done it before, but we think we might be able to build it together. And that's why this is so exciting. It's not just a beta play on crypto. It's not just a foray into DeFi. We are a financial services company, a fintech really, that has this reflexive exposure to the adoption of the blockchain, to making finance better. And that profile we think is simply unmatched.
Yeah, honestly, that's very well said. I'm actually curious, going into 2026, Hyunsu, with your background in DeFi and also your experience running companies just in general as an entrepreneur, I'm curious what kind of things you're looking forward to into 2026. Also, what things have helped you along this journey that you've taken along with you leading Hyperion, and kind of how you want to move in 2026, what you guys are thinking.
Yeah, there's a lot there, Cade. I would say that the thing that gives me personally the most confidence in Hyperliquid in this ecosystem is, having spent time with the core team, and just you can tell that there is a meaningful sense of urgency and desire to build something meaningful in this ecosystem, right, in DeFi. And I think Hyperliquid has really come a significant way in solving that, I think more so than many other blockchains that have been built to date. And when we look at 2026 and the roadmap for, I think what's on for Hyperliquid, right? Unified margin accounts, right? So they are looking to build the substrate where Hypercore, so all the crypto perps, every single market that's been launched by HIP3, the USDH stablecoin, USDC, USDT, right? They're all going to be unified. And what that creates is seamless opportunities for users at the retail institutional level to basically trade any market with any collateral asset 24/7, right? And we've already kind of seen the impact of that approach at the fragmented. I mean, it's kind of fragmented as it is today, but when that all becomes unified, I think that's going to very much increase the velocity of capital, and it's going to set the path for the next big unlock, which is going to be HIP4 or outcome trading, right? So prediction markets, binary option resolutions, when you're able to add a new way to, whether it's kind of discretionary position, hedge against the perpetuals positions on HIP3, you're going to see the birth of new kind of financial primitives that, again, expand the user base and product base for Hyperliquid. And that's what makes us the most excited. Hyperion obviously has a track record of building very quickly, being the first teams to deploy on Hyper EVM and on HIP3. So I think that creates almost endless opportunities for us to strategically allocate and deploy our hype to build more revenue generating primitives. And again, all of that is tied under this outlook that this ecosystem will continue to grow. And when I think about, having been very early to the birth of the Ethereum DeFi ecosystem, to Solana, building directly, helping to store over 10 petabytes of data on Filecoin, right? The other participants and their involvement is also critically important. And so that's why we take a lot of pride in the partnerships that we have built with our teams, and we seek to continue to build, because we think that's what makes an ecosystem truly succeed. We think that this is one of the first truly well-incentive aligned ecosystems where it is not necessarily a zero-sum game. Everyone has the opportunity to accumulate hype, to build products, to add value to the ecosystem, and grow with what everyone is kind of building. And so that's generally our outlook, and that's what gives us so much conviction. I think Hyperion DeFi is, again, very well positioned to continue to build upon our strategies, and we should see growth accelerate with the growth of Hyperliquid.
Hey, have you been like excited or disappointed? Like, what would be the word you use to describe where you see crypto being in 2026? So you like right on time, late, early? Like, where would you say you personally feel?
So I don't want to sound like a doomer or anything, but I think this is finally the reckoning for most, if not all, protocols. We've had a chance to meet with so many different founders and so many different ecosystems, right? And the list is really endless, right? Cardano, XRP, Avalanche, Say, Sui, Aptos. I mean, there's almost a limitless number of layer ones and layer twos. And I think that the challenge has been, how do you create organic user activity and demand for the ecosystem? How do you create better liquidity? How do you have financial products that people want to use every single day? And the only ecosystem that solves for that is Hyperliquid. And so for every other ecosystem, I think we are seeing, and the markets are kind of reflecting that now, they're breaking structure, right? There is no real base, because there is almost an infinite supply of a lot of these tokens with very little demand. So when you have that situation, the kind of floor falls through for a lot of these things. And as a result of that, though, the purging means that value will return to products and ecosystems that have true fundamental value. And so we expect Hyperliquid to be a winner in that space. And again, I think like this is nothing against all the builders that have come before. I think there was a lot of good intention and desire to innovate, but there has to be a way to associate value and bring that to the ecosystem in a way that actually returns value to the users, because that's what makes the users continue to stay and participate.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's very well said, because we talked about this in one of our spaces recently, actually, about some money circulating from like some of the AI plays, some of the tech plays, and moving into things with utility, moving into just companies we hadn't heard of. People were like, Walmart is undervalued. And I'm like, I haven't heard of people talking about Walmart in a while. Like, people were talking about all these random things. And they're like, well, like at some point the markets come and they come and go. And at some point they always will swing back to utility, especially you're talking about tokens that have not done too much. Like you said, no disrespect to everyone who came through before, but there are certainly ones that people are probably just sitting on their bags going like, man, can I maybe allocate this better into something that's doing something? Like, what are the options here? So that's really interesting. Dave, it looked like you wanted to add something there.
No, I would say I agree. It's about the long-term fundamental utility. It's absolutely a Darwinian state for crypto and crypto-related companies right now. We certainly believe in it. Our board believes in it. You can see in our annual shareholder letter that, across myself and the board, we purchased over 180,000 shares of HypeD in December. I personally bought $100,000 worth at 3.59. I believe it's a very, very solid long-term perspective for me personally, hence I purchased. It's the crypto space is volatile. We are here because we believe in the long-term fundamentals of Hyperliquid, the DeFi ecosystem, and our ability to monetize on it. And even though it's been a rough time across the board for crypto, net, this is going to be a good thing for the financial services that crypto will enable.
Yeah, most definitely. And that's great to hear as well. And especially for shareholders out there, it's good to know that you guys are behind the ecosystem on your personal levels too. I was going to ask if there's any last things that people should be aware of that's coming in the short to midterm for Hyperion that people should either mark their calendars for, look forward to, or if it's just kind of moving forward, business as usual, doubling down, tripling down on what you're doing now.
So I think Dave's got one, and then one kind of big idea or concept that I want to leave everyone here with is.
All right, there we go.
So Jeff, the co-founder and CEO of Hyperliquid, did a podcast. I think it was middle of last week, and he brought up a topic about AI utilization of blockchain infrastructure, and it was something that I wrote about in my shareholder letter in early January as well. But a lot of what we're building now is eventually going to transcend human users, right? With the true deployment of agentic processes, financial services, I think, will be broadly managed by specifically designed artificial intelligence, right? And that the best substrate for these entities will be on chain, right? You can't really KYC an agent, but you can give them a wallet, and you can have them optimize where capital will be deployed and how they will be able to best generate yield. When we consider that, and Jeff had a lot of these similar ideas as well, and that's why, again, there's like a lot of urgency in terms of what we're building and what they're building, is we have to effectively design the best possible infrastructure that will be used in the years to come, where it is not just humans, but millions of agentic forces participating on one shared substrate. And that is where we think there's a huge opportunity for Hyperion. And so we're thinking about ways that obviously we can generate more revenues, build scalable businesses, but also build enduring infrastructure that will eventually be utilized by actors that also have capital and the authority to utilize that. And so it'll come to, where is it most liquid? Where is there the best execution, the cheapest cost? And so far, we think that it will continue to happen on Hyperliquid. And so we're super excited about that. And that continues to be one of the core mandates of everything that we're building going forward.
Man, that is a big, big market right there. That is exciting. That is really exciting. Dave, over to you.
No, I can't top that. I was going to say, stay tuned for earnings in March. That's all.
All right, let's get it. Let's get it. Look forward to March, everybody. Well, listen, to both of you, thank you so much for coming on. Really exciting world to be part of in the crypto industry, and definitely going to have extra eyes on Hype and what you guys are doing with Hyperion DeFi. I encourage everyone who is listening, by the way, if you haven't already, definitely check out. We're working with Hyperion DeFi. So to be working with them at Treasury Edge. And if you want to find out more information, there is a tweet down below the stream you guys are watching on X. If you click that, that'll take you to some more information around them. And if you have any questions, you can always shoot them a DM. And definitely keep track. Give them a follow. They're going to have updates coming out. And if you enjoyed the stream, definitely be sure to repost it. We'll see you guys all in the next one. Thank you so much for coming on, guys.
Thanks for having us, Cade.
Absolutely. All right, everyone back at home.